So good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. We are here today. We are happy to give a webinar, the series of MCA around the world webinar series that is being hosted by Communication Working Group. And this time it's as the Policy Working Group to organize the webinar in collaboration with UNESCO. The topic today is advancing science, technology, and innovation diplomacy for sustainability. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. Thank you. I will moderate the webinar as chair of the Policy Working Group. I'm Salvatore Lagori. So just to go through a bit shortly through the agenda, we'll come back a bit later. We'll give a short introduction, introducing you to, of course, the speakers, but also a few elements about the MCA and what we are doing in the Policy Working Group. Then we will have a keynote presentation on science, technology, and innovation diplomacy in the era of AI and quantum technologies by the head of science unit UNESCO Venice. And then we will continue with a panel discussion with distinguished speakers from UNESCO and UNESCO TWAS on STI Diplomacy in Action, Good Practices, Challenges, and Inclusive Pathways for Cooperation. Just for the people, the audience, that they don't know a lot about science diplomacy, usually we have categorized science diplomacy in four different categories. The science for diplomacy, using scientific cooperation to build trust and promote peaceful international relations. SESAM, citizens and policy. Diplomacy for science that uses diplomatic tools and agreements to enable and support scientific cooperation. And diplomacy in science, it is the trust building inside the research collaborations. And why we are discussing today about science, technology, and innovation diplomacy, why it matters, because in today's world we have a lot of global challenges like climate change, health security, AI, and quantum technologies inside the geopolitical tensions. And always the science was crossing borders, and we scientists were crossing borders, and now it's our turn to help and bridge them. So we need to address all these challenges, and this not a single country can do it alone, and is needed not only the scientific excellence, but also international cooperation, the evidence-informed policymaking, and effective science diplomacy. It's where science, technology, innovation, diplomacy enables the international cooperation and the evidence-based policymaking. So a few words about Marie Curie Alumni Association is a global community of researchers that have been funding actions. We are more than 20,000 members from more than 155 countries. We have around 50 local chapters, geographical chapters, and 8 thematic working groups. So we are researchers from all scientific disciplines. And in MCAA, we support the career development, networking, and policy dialogue, and we contribute to European science policy and international research collaboration. So we build capacity, training, and mentoring in policy engagement. We develop intercultural communication skills and, of course, networking across disciplines. So we build inclusive and sustainable collaboration. And we have several policy initiatives. We are participating in several forums, coalitions, especially for science diplomacy in the European Science Diplomacy Alliance. And we have the MCAA Policy Advocacy that supports improvements in research careers and mobility, and we contribute to European research area reforms. Specifically, the MCAA Policy Working Group, each one of the working groups of MCAA, we are more than 180 members. We are participating in MCAA policy and advocacy activities. We do policy engagement across all chapters and working groups, and our goals is to help promote the researchers' careers at the European level and give voice to the researchers in European science policy matters and also globally. We have activity in science policy and science diplomacy, and we contribute to policy statements and consultations, and also in policy events, webinars, and international collaborations. The MCAA Policy Working Group is focusing on science policy with task policy, science diplomacy with cross-cutting. We are having thematic area, global challenges and sustainability, promoting open science and knowledge governance and researcher mobility and international collaboration. We are targeting also themes on technology sovereignty and data governance, and of course equity, gender and diversity. And we are contributing, developing topics in science diplomacy in different aspects. So we have, besides the science policy that we are developing, helping governing funds in research and safe systems and priorities, supporting evidence-informed policy. We have science diplomacy that we are discussing today, how the science can connect to global cooperation and build trust and dialogue across nations. So together, these two, science policy and science diplomacy, we contribute to European research area especially, but also to international cooperation. And why the research networks like MCAA matter, because this is where we are needed to build trust across borders, to enable the collaboration internationally and keep a dialogue open when politics usually cannot manage, and strengthen especially the Europe's openness and strategic autonomy, translating the scientific knowledge into policy insights. In this way, the MCAA plays a role and bridges science policy, international cooperation. So every researcher in MCAA and broadly can contribute to science diplomacy. That's why we are having capacity building activities and engage the research community in science diplomacy. And that's why we are also here in discussing about science diplomacy. So how we go from policy to practice, we are collaborating, participating in different organizations and initiatives. I already said about the European Science Diplomacy Framework. Specifically, we are participating in thematic points on science, technology, and innovation diplomacy, and the cost action that was came out of the policy working group Science in Diplomacy Network. It's a new cost action with several working groups targeting diplomacy for science, science in diplomacy, science for diplomacy, and also developing communication, dissemination, training, and networking for researchers, scientists, but also diplomats and policymakers. So it's quite broad. So we are participating in different conferences during the past year, like the European Science Diplomacy Conference. We have our annual conference with sessions on science diplomacy, empowering the researcher networks, and several also symposiums, high level in science diplomacy. And that is the events that the Policy Working Group has participated, thankful to around the world webinars that is hosting us on cultural diplomacy, also on science policy, and also we had the science diplomacy workshop focusing on career development. Thank you for your attention for some short introduction. So going back to the webinar agenda, I'm really happy today to host so distinguished speakers from UNESCO Venice, Paris, and TWAS. So we will start with a keynote presentation, as I said, by Samuel Paty, that is head of science unit UNESCO Venice, and then we will continue with the panel discussion. So the topic of the keynote presentation by Samuel is Science, Technology, Innovation Diplomacy in the Era of AI and Advanced Technologies. So I would like to present, I'm happy to present Samuel Paty. As I said, he's the head of unit and regional advisor for science at UNESCO Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe. He's an experienced scientist with more than 50 years experience in climate risk assessment, climate finance and low carbon, and climate resilient development in sectors such as agriculture, food security, water, biodiversity, and terrestrial ecosystems. So I will stop here to give the floor to Samuel. And then we will continue with panel speakers' presentations, panel discussion, and of course, interactive discussion with our audience. So thank you for your attention. Please, Samuel, yeah, we can see your slides. So you can start addressing the topic.
Okay, I need to do this. I believe.
It's perfectly okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And greetings to everyone who is connected with us today. So I'll be talking on the topic Science, Technology, Innovation, Diplomacy in the Era of Artificial Intelligence and Quantum Technologies. And I'll try to address this, based on 3 questions. So the first question is, why do AI and quantum technology require a new generation of science, technology, and innovation diplomacy? So this is the first question I want to address. I think we all, believe that AI and quantum technologies are really shaping the global landscape at a very accelerated rate. That, in fact, is not keeping pace, with governance issues. And if you've had opportunity to read the latest, report from Stanford University, which is on a human, centered artificial intelligence report 2026, I think it comes with a lot of very exciting, statistics. If you look at AI application in scientific discovery, we all see that last year, I think about 9% of AI models were able to give, maybe if you put something, you ask some questions in an AI chatbot, the response that it will give you. I think there was some exercise that was conducted with AI, doing some exam. And it came out that it could barely, respond to 9% of the questions. But today we see that almost every question that you are putting in ChatGPT or, any of these models, it gives you a very fast, rapid response to, questions that are coming up. So, and in the area of even agriculture and health sciences, I think the latest report, from Stanford University also shows that there's even an AI designed drug that has been already piloted, for, curing lung diseases, where you are able to, have a more targeted, you know, um, delivery of medicine, for patients. So all these, bring in the fact that we are entering an era where, artificial intelligence and all these emerging technologies are going to cause massive disruption in the way things are done, and they are going to really accelerate scientific discovery. We also see, driving economic competitiveness. I mean, when it comes to the global economy, and if you read that report, it says that, governments at the moment are investing billions of dollars in artificial intelligence and quantum technologies because they recognize, the instrumental role that they can play in industrial competitiveness and also in ensuring innovative leadership. And so, at the moment, if you look at, on a global scale, there's some $344.7 billion that have really, been pumped into, artificial intelligence, across the world. We also see, that AI is playing a very instrumental role in influencing, national security. I mean, we all know that artificial intelligence is already transforming cybersecurity, intelligence, defense, emergency response, critical infrastructure management. And we also know that even though they offer these opportunities and benefits, they can also lead to some, breaches here and there. So a lot of countries are now trying to pump, funds into this. We also see transforming public, services, and here we see that um, there's a lot of organizations, government departments that are trying to move more from, conventional way of doing things. I remember, last week I wanted to go for, some mobile phone, what do you call it, contracts. And they said that, oh, now we just need your ID, and then once they scan every information, everything about you, is captured, and you can really have very fast, delivery of services. We also see that it is creating new geopolitical dynamics. There are a lot of countries, I mean, we all know, especially between China and the United States, that wants to really position themselves as leaders, in artificial intelligence and also in quantum technology. So altogether, there is clear evidence that these technologies are really shaping the global landscape from different dynamics, from science to politics and all that. So what does this mean to us? So what the implication is that we need to now start looking at how science, technology, innovation, diplomacy, the policies, we need to see whether the traditional way of doing things would have to, change and be adapted to, the current realities. And that is why I think this is very important. And so, as I mentioned earlier on, technology is not really keeping pace with the way policies are developed. And so, if you look at, I put this chart also from the report, and it says that, for instance, there are a lot of countries that do not have trust in the way AI, is regulated. And there are a lot of countries that have also reported a number of AI, incidents that are really also posing threats to security, to economic development, and all that. And the point is that countries do not have, very clear policies that are able to, for instance, address some of these ethical issues and challenges that come with the use of these technologies, because they are developing really very fast. And you know how long it takes, to be able to change a policy, or to make a law. It has to go through parliament. It gets, through a lot of debates. And so before a policy is enacted or a law is enacted to, address a particular, challenge or issue with a technology, something else, is going to come up. And so the old way of, doing, things would have to change. And then also we see that technologies have dual uses, especially AI. We know that, for instance, I talked about the fact that now it's being used in medical diagnosis, but at the same time, the same artificial intelligence mechanism of doing things also can also pose some cyber security, risks. And there are a lot of countries that are reporting, that even using generative AI reports pose some security breaches, and all that. And so there has to be a more coordinated approach to ensuring that current governance issues and policies are able to at least address, how emerging technologies are going to affect every facet of the society. I think that if you look at regionally and also continentally, I think there has been some attempts, for instance. So if you look at, for instance, in Europe and Central Asia, they started working on some state-backed AI computing clusters and also trying to work out on some policies. But it has taken a very long time, for these things to be done. And so we see that there's a need to now start looking at, science diplomacy mechanisms and to see how they can really um, keep pace with the accelerated increase in technology. So now that we've been able to look at, the challenges, the fact that technology is really evolving very fast, and new ways of developing policies would have to keep pace with the way the technology is also evolving. So now, how can science diplomacy foster responsible innovation through multilateral cooperation? I think this is where organizations like the United Nations and also UNESCO in particular would have very central role, in this. So, for instance, in UNESCO, we believed in a human-centered approach to technology delivery, and we are also promoting as part of our science, technology, innovation work, also promoting the use of these technologies because they can play very instrumental role in promoting the achievement of sustainable development, where countries can really also harness these technologies to, for instance, create job opportunities, but also be able to solve, some downturn challenges related to climate, related to environment and water. So universally, we see that they offer, very great opportunities. We see the application of these technologies in education, where, for instance, we are promoting AI skill development and jobs, trying to nurture skills development, especially targeting, young people. We also see the application in, for instance, in the energy sector, in applying AI for, water management, disaster risk reduction, climate, model development, trying to also invest in climate information systems, early warning systems, in biodiversity monitoring. So we try to promote the technology used for all these areas. Even in the area of culture and heritage conservation, we see application of artificial intelligence in the preservation and also in addressing threats through digitization. We also now encouraging countries to invest in artificial intelligence, especially for addressing issues related to illicit trafficking of cultural objects, destruction of cultural properties, and also promoting, expression, freedom of expression. We also promoting the use of artificial intelligence in communication and information. We are promoting, for instance, open science, promoting open access to, public data, and all that. So, as an organization, we don't see any problem using these technologies. But most importantly, we're also looking at, the the ethical issues, making sure that these technologies are responsibly used. And part of the motivation why UNESCO is trying to look into this through a multilateral approach is because we see, the risks that are associated with the use of these technologies. And so we are positioning ourselves as a normative and epistemic broker, when it comes to emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. And so in 2021, UNESCO, through also in the spirit of multilateralism, was able to adopt the UNESCO recommendation on artificial intelligence, which was acclaimed by 193 member states of UNESCO. And I'll just glance through it very quickly. So this is, of course, the first globally agreed normative instrument on artificial intelligence. And as I mentioned, it is mainly supposed to help, countries address ethical issues that are associated with these technologies. Because in talking about science diplomacy, it is very important that we also look at the ethical issues that are associated with technologies. Very, very important in trying to foster diplomatic way of using technologies and applying it in society. It is very important to look at this. And so there are four core values that it looks at. And so for any technology to be adopted and to be diffused and applied, it has to be able to respect these core four values. For instance, respect, protection, and promotion of human rights. Also, it should be able to facilitate, peace building and interconnection between people and society. It shouldn't pose any risks to the environment. And then it should also be able to ensure, diversity and inclusiveness. And in that document, if you have an opportunity to look at it, it also dwells on some 10 principles that supports, the recommendations. And it talks about proportionality and do no harm, safety and security, fairness, non-discrimination. So I believe, when you look at a science policy interface, which is really very critical when it comes to science diplomacy, scientists would have to, prove to policymakers that whatever technology is produced or applied has no negative, repercussions, or it has very minimal or no risks. And so the the recommendation that was acclaimed by the UNESCO member states really look into these principles. And also there are 11 policy action areas for operationalizing the recommendation. And these are also very well aligned with the SDGs, looking at, economy and labor. So for instance, we know that if you look at 21st century job and career opportunities, we see that AI is going to play a very central role. But at the same time, we have to look at, how it creates job opportunities, especially for young people, so that we don't end up just, using robots to work, whereas humans have nothing to do. So a lot of these policy action areas are also penned in the recommendations. Now, let me just address my last question. So, what should the next generation of technology, science, technology, innovation, diplomacy look like? I think in the future, it is very important to critically look at, this. So I use 5-point areas. The first point is, first, as I mentioned, one of the big gaps is that the acceleration in technology is not keeping pace with policy development and governance. And I think this is where we need to strengthen multilateral, governance, because AI will not be the last transformative technology. Quantum, synthetic biology, advanced robotics will keep reshaping our societies. The instruments already exist. The global partnership on AI intelligence spans over 46 countries and the EU, and roughly 90 countries have adopted, national AI strategies. So it's very important to already start looking at it. And I think we don't have to be very reactive. We have to be more anticipatory. in looking at current trends and trying to put in measures that are able to regulate this. We also have to look at open science, and it's very important that the scientific community is very open to development of technologies, and making sure that we are able to responsibly share information, and through that, it's very important. Then it can also shape the way policies are, enacted and implemented. And so here again, UNESCO, in 2021, we were able to also advocate for the adoption of the UNESCO recommendations on open science. And in the recommendations, it talks about, how countries can, share data and information. And I think in the AI era and also at a science policy interface, this is really very important as a driver of scientific cooperation. Then we also have to look at the whole capacity development. I think half of the world's population still lack a very stable internet connection, and AI investment at the moment remains extraordinarily concentrated in few regions, like in Europe and also in the US. And so I think science diplomacy should be promoted in a way that it is also able to ensure equitable access to knowledge and all that. And lastly, let me also talk about the fact that we need to strengthen trusted international partnerships. I think this is really, really very critical. I know that geopolitically, there are countries that want to demonstrate leadership. There's a lot of competition in the space. We see a lot of geopolitical rivalry that is also increasing. And so it is very important that countries are able to strengthen trusted international partnership. And I think together we'll be able to shape the future that enables science diplomacy to play a very central role in the way AI, quantum technologies are used. So in conclusion, I just want to read this out, that science diplomacy is no longer just diplomacy for science. It is increasingly diplomacy for humanity, ensuring that scientific and technological progress strengthens peace, advances sustainable development, protects human dignity, and leaves no one behind. I think it's very important to stress this for the fact that we're just not talking simply about how intelligence machines become, but how they are able to help humanity addresses its daunting challenges without any negative repercussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Samuel. It was an excellent keynote presentation. Congratulations. And we've seen that it's increasingly important. We have global challenges. We have opportunities, of course, that actually that is excellent.
Sorry,
continue
Theodota,
with our panel discussion right now, because the top, yeah,
your
you
connection
cannot.
Your connection is a bit weak, so
It's breaking.
yeah, so it's okay. Just wanted to flag
Can
it.
you hear me now?
So,
maybe we can continue
yes.
with our speakers.
Yeah.
So we have 4 speakers, and each one is bringing a different perspective. I hope you can hear me well until I will fix the problem. We can continue with Xing Fang, is our first speaker. She's a project officer in the science unit at UNESCO Regional Bureau for years, more than 12 years in science, technology, innovation, and sustainability policy. Her work focuses on translating policy into practical international cooperation initiatives. So I think I will start with you, and you are going to address the topic of how can science, technology, innovation, diplomacy can enhance collaboration for science-based solutions at regional and national levels. So the floor is yours, and I'm sure we can hear you better than you can hear me. So I hope I can solve the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Theodora, for the great initiative and the collaboration. So, and thank you for the guiding question. So, as we know that science diplomacy is receiving, let's say, increasing political attention. And then just would love to give some background information. If we can go to the second slide. Yeah. So as some of you know, the co-chair statement, Science Diplomacy in a Rapidly Changing World, adopted at UNESCO's 2025 Global Ministerial Conference on Science Diplomacy, reaffirmed science as a bridge for international cooperation and highlighted the critical role of science diplomacy in advancing the science-based solutions for addressing challenges. While at a regional level, the European framework for science diplomacy provides a common vision for strengthening collaboration between science, policy, and diplomacy. And these developments create a timely opportunity for us to explore how to translate those strategic commitment dialogue into practical solutions and cooperation. So against this background today, I would like to draw on UNESCO's experience in Europe, basically by our office based in Venice, and illustrated by some examples, initiatives, projects, to share with you a few challenges, a few key challenges today. So if we can go to next slide. Yeah, so it's important to connect policy, people, partnerships to transform our knowledge into action. So if we can go to next slide, please. Yes. So the first key message is that STI diplomacy should move from dialogue, commitment to implementation. We could create practical mechanisms, platform to enable countries and stakeholders to work together on shared challenges. And I would like to give one recent example led by our office and also in collaboration with Slovenia. So UNESCO's expert recommendations on strengthening science diplomacy in Southeast Europe published early this year, following the expert meeting co-led by UNESCO and Slovenia last November. And it literally identified 3 flagship actions contributed by all experts during the meeting. So first flagship action that the expert emphasized is the need for those regular regional science diplomacy forum for connecting scientists, policymakers, diplomats, and other stakeholders for science-based cooperation. Secondly, as was just mentioned by Samuel, it's about capacity building and fellowship programs to strengthen science diplomacy skills. And then it was also important to have those site-based pilot initiatives in UNESCO designated sites to demonstrate science diplomacy in action. And to enable these flagship actions identified through the expert meeting last year, the recommendations also highlight the need for a few enabling conditions. So, for example, digital collaboration platforms for knowledge sharing exchange, and this important for the seed funding for cross-border pilot initiatives, as well as foresight and policy briefs to inform decision-making. And following the adoption of the recommendations, this year, we plan to implement the recommendations together with the interested partners in the region, which will be really translating knowledge commitment into practical solutions together in the region. And next slide, please. Yes, and the second key message is about, so digital transformation offers the different opportunities. It also serves as a new platform for regional STI diplomacy. So as we know, digital and emerging technologies are reshaping our societies and economies across Europe. At the same time, countries face many common challenges, and these challenges that no country can solve alone. So it needs cooperation and diplomacy. To support member states in addressing them, UNESCO is implementing the regional initiative, Digital Futures for Smart Europe, initiated in early this year. The project brings together researchers, universities, governments, innovation, ecosystem stakeholders across different pilot countries to assess digital transformation and green innovation ecosystem. And we expect to build institutional capacity and individual capacity for inclusive and sustainable digital transitions. More importantly, this project creates a regional platform for enabling countries to share experiences, also strengthens STI cooperation, and jointly adapt science-based solutions to their national context. So this example illustrates how STI diplomacy enhances collaboration by connecting expertise across borders and supporting science-based solutions for both regional and national priorities. And if we can go to next slide. Yes. So the third key message I would like to emphasize is that people are the most important element for STI diplomacy. So policies and technologies can only deliver impact when we invest in people and institutions that can work across borders. So this principle, it reflected in a previously mentioned UNESCO's regional expert recommendations, particularly in its Pillar 2, Science Diplomacy for through people, which emphasizes long-term capacity development. And I would also like to emphasize another good example is UNESCO's regional project Revitalizing STEM Education, which was successfully completed last year. And beyond delivering strong results in STEM education, this project, in collaboration with International Research Center on AI, Artificial Intelligence, based in Slovenia, we established the Regional STEM Clearinghouse and expanded the UNESCO Regional STEM Alliance. And it really created lasting platforms for like collaboration among researchers, universities, governments, UNESCO chair centers, technology partners across the region. And it fostered a regional community of practice where countries can share innovative teaching practices, STI solutions for use. So this is another example which demonstrates how STI diplomacy emphasizes collaboration by investing in people and youth, especially, notably empowering young people through STEM education and developing capacities needed to conduct science-based policy and solutions. And if you can go to the last slide. Yes, I think we have limited time. So let me conclude quickly with some potential entry points for some further possible collaboration. So under UNESCO's Digital Futures for Smart Europe, which was just introduced, we will soon launch a call for experts. So we warmly welcome and invite researchers or universities, experts who are interested from the region to apply to join this initiative and contribute your expertise in STI or digital transformation, AI, green innovation, or science policy interfaces and relevant areas. And in line with the regional expert recommendations, there are also other multiple opportunities for further collaboration with UNESCO. For example, it would be interesting to develop together joint projects and pilot initiatives that generate evidence for national and regional science policy processes. Or it would be useful to contribute to research foresight on STI diplomacy through policy briefs, evidence synthesis. And we can also think about co-designing or co-organizing the regional science diplomacy forum, fostering policy dialogue on shared regional priorities. Or it would be useful to co-deliver capacity building activities, working with experts, UNESCO chair centers, and networks. So these are all the practical ways in which STI diplomacy can enhance collaboration by developing science-based solutions that benefit both countries and the wider region. So this would be my answer to your question, Theodora, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all this work and opportunities that UNESCO is working on, especially for regional activities. That is very important, the work that you are doing. We will have the opportunity to discuss later also several aspects to come back to this. I would like to introduce now our second speaker from the panel, Daphne Feinholz. She's Chief of UNESCO Bioethics and Ethics of Science section, and has led UNESCO's work on bioethics and the ethical, legal, and social implications of emerging technologies for many years. She's supporting member states in developing responsible governance frameworks. And the question that Daphne will try to address is, as emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence increasingly shape societies and economies, what role can STI diplomacy play in promoting responsible technology governance and international cooperation? So Daphne, thank you. The floor is yours, and you can start.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here. Can you confirm that you see the slides? Because I have my colleague helping me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we are dealing with several technical difficulties this afternoon.
And like bulbs, everybody's having another thing. So thank you very much for this invitation again. I'll try to be brief, and I want to touch. I think it's very good that previous speakers have already touched upon some of the points of and the work of UNESCO, and particularly the work of the recommendation of ethics of artificial intelligence that I had the privilege to manage all that process. So it was really nice also to see those slides. And so I will give you also some background of all those documents, because this is what I want to do now. I want to structure my intervention in linking the ethics, which is what we do, with the science diplomacy, and how all this is linked to the fact that we can have and achieve a better and more and a more robust governance of emerging and converging technologies. So why don't we start from the very beginning, which is the mandate of UNESCO and the mission of UNESCO? Our constitution is very clear. It says that that since the world began in the minds of people, of men, that's the right wording, because of the time, it is in the minds of men or people, like we say now, that the defenses of peace must be constructed. So it was us, people, human beings, that create war. So it's in our minds that we have to create the defenses against war, and that is that. So the mission of UNESCO is very particular, because even if it's a specialized agency of the UN system, it's not like WHO that is specialized in health, or UNICEF in children, or UNDP in development. So we are here to promote peace. And how are we going to promote peace? How are we going to build these defenses of peace in the mind of people? It is through international and intellectual collaboration between all the countries of the world in the areas of competence of UNESCO, which is education, culture, social and human sciences, natural sciences, and communication. So this is, as you see, I believe, science diplomacy and ethics are at the heart of the mission of UNESCO. We have to acknowledge that science and technology and innovation are not neutral forces. I mean, when I say neutral, it's not only the fact that we use the way in which we use the technologies, but it's also the fact that we decide to develop these technologies or any other, because there is already a reason why we decide to develop them or not to develop them. And when they are developed, they are shaping the way we live, the way we relate to each other, particularly in artificial intelligence, the way we make decisions, and how we share benefits and how we understand human dignity. So the fundamental questions here is, okay, we are going to collaborate, and we are going to collaborate to make sure that science and technology are there, but we have to first ask the questions also together. What do we want from these technologies? What do we want them to do? What kind of society we want them to be shaping? Under which conditions are we to develop them? Who is going to benefit? Who is going to be probably not benefit but damage? So the answers to these questions cannot come from only one voice, neither one country, neither one profession, neither one. This is really a societal decision. It's about the common good, and that's why it calls for a dialogue, and it calls for a deliberation of all the parties involved. So you can already see that ethics, in a way, is part of what we have to do with the science diplomacy. So and that's really what the ethical reflection is. It's like technology can be developed, but we have to ask these questions on where do we want to go. So for us, you can see that there is this very clear correlation, and for UNESCO, ethics is not really an additional layer to science diplomacy, but it's part of our mandate to help to ensure that science and technology are placed at the service of peace, the humanity, human rights, sustainability, and inclusion. So ethics can help, and in fact should be guiding, should be the compass of societies, and to reflect if they want something, where do they want to go, and how scientific and technological progress can contribute to common good. So here is also speaking about scientists, but also civil society and academia. And academia scientists, but also all the different partners or key players involved. So how does this connect to science diplomacy more concretely? So you already said that that there is 3 ways of defining science diplomacy. Maybe we can move to the next slide. Yeah. So for science diplomacy, as you have already said, it can be science in diplomacy, but how? I mean, science in diplomacy, diplomacy for science, and science for diplomacy. Now, the ethical reflection is in fact part of the 3 of them, because if science is to inform diplomacy, then it must be trusted. And how do we arrive to this? How do we accomplish this? If diplomacy is to support science, it must create the conditions for open, inclusive cooperation. And if science is to build bridges between nations, then it must be directed towards the common good. And we have to have the right mechanisms in order to be able to have this discussion. So let me now very briefly go to and to explain you more in detail how these ways of reading science of diplomacy are at the heart of what we do in the project, in the specific program of bioethics and ethics of science and technology. Because this mandate, in this way, UNESCO helps to ensure that the science and technology served, as I said, peace by fostering, this is very important, fostering this agreement among member states, furthering cooperations on scientific research, evidence-based policymaking, and at the same time upholding the high ethical standards in the pursuit of science and technology. So if we move to the next one, I will give you, I will just very quickly give you, so UNESCO, as you know, we have different dimensions if we work. On one hand, we are a laboratory of ideas, which means that we have to produce ideas, we have to think together, we are anticipating what are the ethical questions of some technologies, particularly in this case, for example, AI, but not only standard setter, capacity builders, and convener. We need to identify what are the challenges. We need to then develop some kind of agreed norms and principles. And as it was said also before, we need to train people who will be able to duplicate and replicate the system, the methodology, but also the messages. And we are conveners, and this is part of the diplomacy and the ethics, to convene and bring scientists, governments, and societies together. And I will give you concrete examples of how we do it if we go to the next one, which of course is, again, we are producing norms. We are and this is not an easy task, because creating these norms is really to identify and to be able to build these shared values and principles. With the processes that I will describe very quickly now, you will see that we have to identify where do we agree and where do we disagree, why do we disagree, and then say, okay, we have to build on what we agree, because the difference is also part of what we value at UNESCO. And then we have, again, to strengthen the capacities and the tools to make sure that all the ecosystems of science and technology are based on this possibility of dialogue, and also keeping at the center the human rights and the dignity of the people, and of course the cooperation, the global and inclusive and multi-stakeholder dialogue, but also not only to arrive to these norms, but also to continue to make sure that we help, and it's part of the ethical principles in all our documents. For example, benefit sharing, supporting the countries that have less capacities to develop their own infrastructure, for example. So if we go to the last one, I will tell you, like, specifically what do we do and how is it translated in the very concrete things. So I said that we are a laboratory of ideas and that we anticipate what are the challenges. So this is what we do through our expert bodies. We have the International Bioethics Committee and COMES, which is the World Science Commission of Ethics of Science and Technology. These are independent experts. They are not representing governments. These are scientists, social and natural scientists, that are nominated and appointed in their individual capacities, and they are bringing their views, and they are the ones who anticipate the challenge, and they are the ones who prepare a full report, and then at the end provide recommendations to member states and to different stakeholders about what is the best way to go to try to address these challenges, to ensure that, for example, we have a trust that the systems of AI are trustworthy, that the privacy and cybersecurity and data protection and all these things are in place. And then there is in the Intergovernmental Committee on Bioethics, and then you have this dialogue between the representatives of the government, because the intergovernmentalist member states decide who sits in this committee, and they have a dialogue between themselves about these reports. The IBC and COMES remain independent, but this dialogue serves to understand better what are the needs, the worries of the countries, and also for the countries to understand more in depth the content, because this is something that sometimes is lacking. Many of these reports have paved the way, in fact, to the most important normative instruments that we have. Before the recommendation of artificial intelligence, and now we have the recommendation of ethics of neurotechnology, we also have very important normative instruments who in bioethics, like the Universal the Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights, and also the two before ones, which are related to human genome and human rights, and we have also a declaration on ethical principles of climate change. Now, the process of how this work is really incredible, because we have independent experts that prepare a first draft of a recommendation. So people that are not politicians are preparing based on knowledge, scientific knowledge, social and human knowledge, the draft. Then there is a super wide consultation process that includes all the relevant stakeholders, civil society, private sector, academia, etc., etc. Those comments, which are more than 10,000 and a lot more, and by the way, we have worked with IRCAI, the center that was just mentioned, to process all those comments that we got in the process of elaborating the recommendation of AI. Then they are brought back to the attention of the experts. Then the experts include these comments, and there is only that document that goes to negotiation. So in the negotiations, you have politicians that are aware of the subject matter, but you also have the ones who are trying to say, like, okay, here they say the right to. What does that mean? That will imply an obligation for us. So maybe we are not going to agree with the word right. But in any case, the political discussions are already based on something that was scientific diplomacy, I would say, in a way, scientists collaborating together, but also this ethical reflection that comes from the very different parts of the world. And then we have the normative instruments, and then of course the idea is to put them in practice through capacity building activities at the level of the government, but also at different levels of education. So we have readiness assessment methodologies to see where is the country lying vis-a-vis the recommendation, which includes, for example, if they consult with civil society, how much do they invest in education, how much they promote research. And we continue to organize this global cooperation and dialogues. We are always supporting Africa and SIDS and women and youth. And for example, we are going to have in September the 4th edition of the Global Forum of Ethics of Artificial Intelligence, in which we bring again the ministers, the scientists, and all the civil society and the private sector, everyone that participated in the national exercise of evaluating how that particular state is standing in order to be able to deploy and develop this technology of artificial intelligence in concrete. So this is again a possibility of a fora for exchange and mutual learning. I'll stop here. I just wanted to give you some concrete examples, hopefully, of how the mission of UNESCO, the ethics and the science diplomacy can work together or operate at this global level. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. That is an impressive amount of work that shows that innovation can evolve, but together with ethics, and this is possible, and that is so important, the work that you do, and also the international dialogue and cooperation that helps for these aims. And of course, in the next step is very important, capacity building. And that's a nice pass now to the next speaker, Sarah. Sara is working in the TWAS in the Science Diplomacy program, has been working for many years and has contributed significantly to science diplomacy initiatives that aim to strengthen the scientific capacity, and particularly in Global South across developing countries. So, Sara, let me turn to you now. If you want to address, based on your experience and your work, what capacities should universities, research institutions, scientific academies can develop to engage more effectively in science, technology, innovation, diplomacy, particularly in the Global South? And how can international cooperation help to strengthen these capacities? So the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being here today with us.
Thank you, Daphne. Good afternoon from Italy. I'm Sara Dalaffi. As Daphne said, from the World Academy of Sciences. We are a program unit of UNESCO based in Trieste, Italy. Our executive director could not attend today, so I was asked to provide some perspectives from our experience, from TWAS's experience, on what type of capacities should academic institutions try to develop to engage in science diplomacy, and how international cooperation can help strengthen these capacities. I prepared also some slides, so let me please share them quickly with you. Think they are visible now?
Yes, perfect.
We can start off by noting one fact, that is, because of their way of operation, academic institutions already have, say naturally, some sort of some capacities that are particularly fit and consistent with diplomacies. In particular, science tend to focus on issues that are very relevant to society. If we think about climate, health, and other important issues, science is based on collaboration. Research, scientific research cannot advance without collaborative ties among researchers nationally and internationally. And also another aspect that is conducive to building trust is the methodology of scientific research, that is based on transparency and data sharing, and is based on meritocracy and peer review. So because of this way of operation, academic institutions can have ideally a number of characteristics. They are unbiased, as they are independent organizations from political and commercial interests, are credible because they can provide evidence-based information to inform policy and orient society. They are inclusive because they imply the diverse perspectives and knowledge systems of the scientists. And especially in the case of science academies, they can be trusted national voices to speak about science. As it was said also by the other speakers, science diplomacy, science technology, and innovation diplomacy specifically arises from the interplay between science and foreign policy, to the extent that science can provide sound evidence-based information to policy. And on the other side, foreign policy can help advance the scientific development of countries. However, there is undoubtedly a gap between the scientific community and the policy community, because they have different communication styles, different languages, different agendas and way of operation. So a role that international cooperation can have in strengthening the capacities of academic institutions to deal with science diplomacy is certainly trying to narrow this gap existing between science and policy. In an attempt to contribute to this, TWAS created back in 2012 a science diplomacy program that is offering mainly courses and workshops. We had over 20 events since inception. Over 850 individuals were trained. I would like to highlight in particular the summer course we host with the AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, that is based in Washington, D.C., because this course has a peculiar format that is a pairing format, meaning that participation is not individually, but is based on pairs. So each pair is composed by a young scientist below age of 40 and a policymaker from the same country. Here we see a couple from Bangladesh. And they attend in pair, and so the pairing format allows for this linking between scientists and policymakers during the course. The courses have some key targets that are raising awareness, first of all, to raise awareness, especially of the young scientists, of the implications that their research can have beyond the limits of their lab. The pair is made aware of the differences between the way of operation and communication between the two communities. The approach is hands-on in breakout groups through simulated negotiation, case studies on transboundary issues. Pairs are conducted to develop a number of skills that are particularly important in diplomacy, that are negotiation skills, how to communicate science to policymakers and vice versa. And also they learn the important ability to establish new relations, to network. This is very essential in diplomacy. Another way international cooperation can strengthen STI capacities is definitely trying to strengthen research and innovation systems of a country. Because if we want scientists to provide, the scientific community to provide sound evidence-based information to policy, the research and innovation system needs to get stronger and stronger. TWAS has developed since inception a number of capacity building programs that are based on a South-South cooperation approach as well as a North-South cooperation approach. South-South cooperation tries to give incentives to scientists to remain in their countries and produce excellent science in their countries. Whereas what we in TWAS, we use the expression from brain drain to brain gain and circulation. Brain gain would be the incentives to have scientists remain in the home countries, and instead the brain circulation is the attempt to link the scientists who have left their home country, that they are in diaspora, to link them with the scientists who have remained in their home country. And there are a number of programs that follow this approach. So there are different areas of capacity building, trying to build a core of PhD and postdoc trained scientists through fellowships. There are grants research grants that aim to improve the research infrastructure of scientists. There are mobility schemes that precisely try to link scientists in South-South and North-South cooperation linkages. And often the attendance of a conference, of the mobility schemes, provide scientists to the interdisciplinary approaches to international exposure that maybe they didn't have before, and networking opportunities. Here in the picture we have Aduke Nadej from Benin. She was beneficiary of the CISA Linchei TWAS program, which is a program that allows some scientists from least developed countries to come to labs in Italy. And this is funded through CISA and Linchei. This is just an example of this North-South cooperation. Another way, and I conclude, that is very can be very effective in trying to strengthen the capacities of research institutions in science diplomacy is trying to build strong partnership and networks. In particular, one way is through the centers of excellence, because they tend to not only to provide the best of knowledge, but to link with innovation and also try to look at the entrepreneurship implications of scientific applications. TUAS has developed a relationship with the Chinese Academy of Sciences for 6 CAS centers of excellence in cutting-edge areas like climate, green technology, space technology, and others. Of course, there are individual networks that can be established by international cooperation programs. In the case of TUAS, we have the TUAS Fellows, the young affiliates that are scientists less than 40 years, who are associated with TUAS for 6 years and are nominated by the TUAS regional partners every year. And then I would like to mention, to conclude, because I think we are running out of time, the inter-academy partnership, which is another type of network, very important, which is a network of science academies. There are now over 150 science academies that are collaborating through IAP, through TUAS, and they work on reports, on policy statement, on projects. I mentioned the one that I also indicated, the picture in the slide, is a project on biosecurity, and there is even a working group. So basically, the academies are trying to sensitize their research community in the biological sciences on the importance of responsible research practices, and to make them aware of biosecurity in relation, in particular, to the BWC Convention, which is the Biological and Toxic Weapon Convention. So I highlighted these 3 aspects, and I conclude here. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sarah, especially for the examples that you gave and how it is important to build these sustainable science diplomacy ecosystems that you're trying to do through your institution, and the long-term partnerships that you are trying to build. That's also fundamental. Thank you very much. I hope we will have some time for discussion afterwards. Sorry, we are running a bit late, but I think we are here today to listen to you, and that's important. So I'm going to ask our 4th speaker, Zhengmei Wang. She's our final speaker of the panel. She's Associate Program Specialist in UNESCO's section of Research, Governance and Diplomacy. Zhengmei coordinates UNESCO's Science, Technology, Innovation Policy Program and co-leads international capacity building initiatives, supporting the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. So Zhengmei, my final question for you is, what capacities and strategic partnerships are required to build resilience and inclusive science, technology, innovation systems? And how can gender-responsive approaches strengthen STI diplomacy and ensure that STI cooperation is more inclusive and equitable? So the floor is yours.
Thank you, clear daughter. Can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Thanks again for the introduction, and hello everyone. It's a great honor for me to join you today in this discussion. I think in the previous presentations we have heard how STI diplomacy strengthens cooperation, builds trust and dialogue among nations. And building on this perspective, I'd like to invite us to think about one additional question. And that is what enables country to engage actively and effectively in STI diplomacy and international cooperation. And of course, many factors contribute to this, and we have also heard some answers in the previous presentation. And the perspective that I'd like to share with you is the capacities of national STI system are an essential part of this answer. So Sarah just mentioned about how international cooperation can strengthen research and innovation system capacity. So I'm gonna talk about it in the other way around, and also maybe also as a mutual enforcing process. And I will share with you, based on UNESCO's experience on what capacity are becoming more and more important for strengthening SCS system, and how strengthening those capacities and international cooperation can become mutually reinforcing. I think in one of the previous presentations, we discussed that STI diplomacy is important in facilitating the achieving the SDGs and to address global challenges. And if we see STI diplomacy as the bridge that connects countries and enable cooperation to address these goals, then maybe the national STS systems are one of the foundations that support that bridge. They bring together institutions, different stakeholders. They provide policy framework, governance mechanism, and evidence base that enable countries to develop their STI capacities and engage in international dialogue and cooperation. So in this sense, strengthening national STS system is not only an investment in national development, but also in stronger STI diplomacy and cooperation. So then the natural question becomes, how do we strengthen STI system as suggested in my guiding question, and or to say what capacities do countries need most to strengthen their STI system? And one findings that consistently emerge from our work with member states is that today the main challenge is no longer only about having a policy framework. It's more and more about policy implementation. Member states, they are asking how to translate policy documents into concrete implementation mechanism, how to coordinate different ministers and sectors, how to bring together not only actors from science ministry, but also from agriculture, from energy, and from foreign affairs stakeholders. They are also asking how to monitor the progress and learn from implementation. And behind these challenges, there is one essential capacity, and that is the capacity to collect, collect and use evidence to inform policymaking. This evidence, we've talked about some evidence from research, but here I also want to talk about some evidence from what policy exists, what concrete policy measures exist, what has worked and what doesn't. So by through the process of collecting this evidence to identify the strengths and gaps in the capacities of STI systems, countries also identify their opportunities for international cooperation and for strengthening STI diplomacy. I will use a concrete example since another question is to illustrate UNESCO's gender inclusive approach. So here I'm gonna illustrate what I just mentioned about strengthening national STI system to strengthening cooperation by using a project on promoting gender inclusive science institution and system. The project is called GENSIS. It aims to strengthen gender inclusion across science institutions and systems. But beyond this gender inclusive approach, it can also demonstrate how strengthening national capacities, building STI systems can and international cooperation reinforce each other. In this project, we support countries in establish national gender committees where we bring together different ministries, universities, research institutes, and science granting councils. And the scientists contribute evidence on various career paths, institutional barriers, and research environments in science. And universities contribute institutional experience, and policymakers translate this evidence into reforms. And that is also why all actors matters, and everyone who is participating in this webinar is also a very important part of the STI system. And one important element of the project is the International Learning Lab. So through the International Lab, national experiences are shared across countries through peer learning and knowledge exchange. So the evidence collected at the national level drives global learning, and this learning process also strengthens, provide good practices and strengthens the national capacities. And at the same time, such continuous exchange build trust among countries, deepen partnerships, and strengthen STI diplomacy. Another question that Theodota, you assigned to me is about what kind of partnerships is required to strengthen such a STI system for better international cooperation and STI diplomacy. And using this case, I would say that we bring together different actors also at the international level. So the project is financially supported by IDRC, and UNESCO brings strength in policy expertise, normative mandate, and convening power. And the organization of the OWSD contributes its global network of women scientists. So each agency plays its unique role in this process. And the last slide is the summary of my key messages. I think first of all, I want to reiterate that effective STI diplomacy and international cooperation are built not only through international dialogue and partnerships, but also through the capacities of national STI systems. And building such system is increasingly about strengthening countries' capacity to implement policies, to generate and use evidence, and also ensure a continuous learning process. And third, strengthening such capacities and strengthening international cooperation are mutually reinforcing process that together enhance our collective capacity to address shared global challenges. But building a STI system is not an end itself. It's about enabling every country to contribute and benefit from international cooperation and dialogue. With that, I want to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sekme. It was very interesting to see all the different aspects and perspectives and how that all comes together and strengthen the role of science, technology, innovation, diplomacy, national level, international level, how the ethics is important, how to create how important is the capacity building and to create partnerships and strengthen the scientific capacity. To the time that has left, maybe there is not a lot of time to collect questions from the audience that were very silently and very attentive today. Since we are at the MCAA webinar, and there are a lot of researchers from different disciplines, countries, And maybe they would like to hear if you have some advice that you can give to researchers, particularly to early career researchers that we have many in MCAA that would like to contribute, that today are motivated from what they heard and would like in the future, close future, to start contributing to science diplomacy. But in this complex ecosystem, they don't know where to begin, what to do, what is the right way to get integrating this system and start contributing. Maybe we can go just around table, starting maybe from Zegmei, that I see you here, and then we go to Zink, Daphne, Sarah, and Samuel.
Thank you, Theodota. Maybe I would just continue what I mentioned in my presentation. I think researchers, scientists, they are very important part of the STI system. And using the example of the gender inclusive project that I mentioned, the perspectives from scientists are very important in terms of providing feedbacks on what are the career paths, what are the barrier in the research system, their research environment, and such information is very important to support the policymakers to make policy reforms to ensure we build inclusive and equitable science systems.
Thank you. Maybe the same question, if you want, Zink, to say your opinion, how you see in this complex system that we so analytically, we said all the different aspects, how you see the researchers contributing in this complexity.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. So I understand that this is also tailored for most of the audience for today's webinar. That was also why I put the last slide, trying to suggesting some possible entry points for further collaboration, which are targeting for expert researchers. So of course, it would be very useful for us to work with networks of researchers, experts, which we have been working with throughout our initiatives, projects, programs. So it's part of the important stakeholders for us. And as was just mentioned, the new project that under the new project, we will have this call for experts. So this is a very good window and example to show that researchers and experts are very important for us, as they will be involved for the policy recommendations, policy research in this project relating to digital transformation, green innovation, as well as the following capacity building workshop in the pilot countries. And of course, it would be very interesting too if we can collaborate to develop some joint projects, some initiatives, and we can co-design, for example, the Science Diplomacy Forum, which are the practical solutions that we can do. And in this case, I think more and more we have the collaboration, the close collaboration together. And another example of course, I was already mentioned is about we collaborated with our AI experts in building the digital platform we call STEM Clearinghouse. So this is another example that if we work with our technology AI experts, we can co-deliver the platform. And this platform will help us to bring more experts, more researchers, and then it will be sustainable venue for us to discuss and facilitate cross-border collaboration. So I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jing. And we are hoping for close collaboration with MCAA, with you, MCAA Policy, for future projects, because we have very competent researchers from different disciplines. And I don't know, maybe I should let the audience, Daphne, you want to comment on this, or I should continue with
no,
another?
it's just because
yeah, please comment.
Sorry
if you
to
have
jump
comment,
because
and also
I might need to leave. That's why.
Yeah.
No, but I just wanted to say that what I would suggest is that people that are really thinking about following this science diplomacy career, I think it is important that try to look at the ethics all the time, because I think it's an element that it's very important. And it's also, as I tried to mention, is very complementary to the work. And I would suggest that they could read the reports that the IBC and COMEST have produced. There was a question, for example, in the chat about what's happening with the lunar project. So we have a report of exploration and utilization of outer space from the ethical point of view, about synthetic biology, about quantum computing. So we have quite a lot of research. And then, as I mentioned, also they do reflection, and they provide with some practical recommendations. I think it's good if they can also reach to us, but if they can look for some trainings. And every year we have, and we also announce in our website the sessions of these committees where they get together and discuss, and they are public. There is always at least one day of public sessions, and I would invite also to join and to listen.
Thank you. We try to follow up all the links. Usually we are very interested in the UNESCO events, and we are following up quite a lot. We try to propagate this information. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Very important aspect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne, for being here with us, knowing how busy your schedule is. Very important to have you here.
Thank you. In fact, I'm really sorry, but I will have to leave you.
Yes, I mean, feel free. We will close probably in 5-10 minutes. We could stay longer, but I promise to have another session, maybe for specific aspects, and we have more time to think and discuss. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the panelists. Thank you.
Have a nice weekend. Sarah, you are also one of the experts for capacity building. So if you want to comment on that, and then I see a question from the audience after, and then we can close the session.
I can add that, especially as you said, for the early career scientists, if they are interested in engaging in science diplomacy, maybe a first step could be taking a course. Of course, TWAS offers one, but there are now many courses offered by different stakeholders. I'm thinking also about in Europe, some organizations are providing these kind of courses, because it's a way to start raising that awareness, becoming conscious of the very simple fact that, their research, especially in certain fields, the research can have policy consequences. So these kind of courses and networking can help them to build this, and of course some of the skills. But also, attending these courses can also put them in contact with experts in the sector, and then from there they can decide whether they want to engage more.
Thank you, Sarah. Actually, in Policy Working Group, we do quite a lot of try to do capacity building, and it's very important to have this connection with UNESCO and you and World Academy of Sciences, so we can enrich our activities. So thank you very much for being here. And actually, there is a question, and probably it's the last question, then we can close. Maybe for Samuel, if he's still here, and we like to respond to the question that is interesting, how the STI Diplomacy framework of UNESCO complement the framework, the European Science Diplomacy framework. If Samuel is still,
yes,
you can respond.
I'm still here. Thank you very much. And yeah, I was looking at that question. So at the moment,
Yeah.
UNESCO at the moment don't have like member state adopted framework on science diplomacy. I think what we did was that somewhere last year we organized a high level meeting, and in that high level meeting it was also interministerial. There were ministers from science and technology innovation that came together, and they tried to help UNESCO define a position in that space. So there is some kind of a recommendation, that came up, that was drafted that shows
So
areas
you
where
were the
UNESCO can.
connecting tissue between this
Yes.
ministerial
Yes,
dialogue.
where UNESCO can provide support and all that. But I think all these are very well, of course, aligned with the EU framework. And I think the various thematic issues are very clearly aligned with the consultation that went on in March last year. And so we don't have like one member state adopted one yet, but of course, all our engagements are very well aligned also with the EU. And this has informed, for instance, how we engage our office in Venice, engage with the countries within the EU and also even the Balkans. Thank you.
Yeah, and also yesterday you had the Science, Technology, Innovation, the global forum, the forum yesterday that was at Paris headquarters. That was also very important as an initiative to bring all the stakeholders together. So we are following quite a lot of your activities and events, and we will keep close contact with you. So MCAA Policy will be happy to continue. Let's say that this is just the start of a nice collaboration, especially for capacity building activities and for several events that we can organize together. So I would like, since we are running a bit late, to thank you first, of course, our keynote speaker, but also all the speakers in the panel, that we had very nice collaboration. Thank you very much, Ting, that put in place quite a lot of this, and that end up to this very nice webinar. And we hope to have these webinars or other events in the future. And I would like also to thank everyone that has been connected today with us. It was a pleasure to moderate the discussion. Sorry for any technical problems that I had with my internet. That is rare, but can happen. So I wish you all a wonderful afternoon and weekend. And I thank you, each of you individually, our invited speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And thank you, UNESCO, for all the work that you do.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.